Hello, and welcome to our next week of learning the laws of Chesed and the ideas of Chesed by the Chafetz Chaim, his book Avos Chesed. So, something really fascinating that I learned for today's lesson was that we tap into the schus, the merits of our forefathers quite often, right? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they led the building blocks for the Jewish nation. And a lot of times we'll say to God, we need their help. We need your help, and please, in the merit of our forefathers, please have mercy on us. But what happens, it's like a bank account. And the bank account oftentimes can be diminished. And we've called upon our forefathers' merits for thousands of years in exile, through generations and generations of really needing them and their merits to stand on our behalf. So what happens when that bank account of their merits start to dwindle, and we've already been using their merits for many, many years, and it could be that those merits are starting to diminish. Something unbelievable that it said in the Talmud was that Hashem said to the people of Israel, if you see that the merits of your fathers and the merits of your great mothers have been diminished due to the many things charged against it, then go ahead and attach yourself to the virtue of kindness. Kindness is the answer. The verse explains, because if the people act towards each other with kindness, then my kindness shall not be removed from you. So the answer of how to refill this bank account is through chesed. So chesed and doing for one another has such a strong power that it's literally said in the Talmud that this, by doing acts of chesed, you are creating such merit for yourself, both in this world and in the next world. It can literally save you, and there's countless examples in the Torah. But one example that is quoted here from the Gemara is that during the times of the Romans, they captured some of the leading rabbis of the generation, and they find their crime was that they were teaching Torah and that they were observing the Torah, and at one point, two very famous rabbis were taken, Rav Elazar and Rav Chanina, and they were both tremendous Torah scholars. And Rav Elazar said to Rav Chanina, I know that I'm being fined for teaching Torah for 1 year, and you're being fined for teaching Torah for 5 years, but you're going to make it out of here, and I'm not. And the reason is because yes, you've learned Torah and you've taught Torah, but you've also done so much chesed. Well, I have really just spent most of my life learning Torah. Now, it happens to be that Rav Elazar was also had done many beautiful charitable things, but he knew that on his level that he could have done more. And chesed really, really has this power to save. It says in the Torah that Rabbi Akiva's daughter on her wedding day, she was a very poor man came to her wedding, and he said, please, can you give me something to eat? And she could have said, it's my wedding day, I'm the bride, I'm very busy, I'm getting ready, getting my makeup and hair done. I can't be bothered right now with this. But instead she said, no problem. And she gave him from her food. And she said, please, enjoy, you should feel satiated. What ended up happening? That night, right before her wedding, she fell asleep and she took out the hairpin that was inside her hair and she put it into the wall. And when she woke and she took the hairpin out of the wall to put back into her hair, there was a deadly, some sort of snake, something that would have killed her, a poisonous snake that would have really killed her. And when she showed it to her father and the great rabbis, they said, what have you done recently to merit being saved? And she's thinking, what could she have done? And she said, well, there was a poor man who needed food, and I gave him, and I let him come to the wedding, and I let him partake in the food of the festivities. And they said, that is what saved you, because chesed saves one from maves, from death. Chesed is what keeps one alive. And it stands as a tremendous merit for you and for the generation and for the people. So I recently heard a really beautiful story being quoted very recently by Charlie Harari, who's a wonderful speaker. And he was saying he lives in the Five Towns area, and he was saying that his friend was recently in a supermarket, and there was a lady online in front of, and his friend witnessed this whole thing happen. There was a lady online, and she got up to her turn, and they were ringing up her food, and when it was time for her to pay, she said, "I'm sorry, I don't have the money for that. Can you just put that on my bill and I'll pay it back? I know the store sometimes allows that." And they said, "We're sorry, but your bill's, it's too high. We can't put any more money on your bill for you to pay back." She didn't know what to do, and she was all nervous, and the man in back of her said, "I got it, it's okay. Let me pay for your groceries today." She was so thankful, and she's gonna now have groceries for her family, and she could go home with a sort of menucha, a sort of relaxation. And then the lady left the store, and this man who just paid for her groceries said to the cashier, "What's her bill? What's the bill that's so high that she couldn't put extra on it today?" And they said, "It's in the thousands and thousands of dollars." He said, "You know what? I'm gonna cover the entire bill of food. I'm gonna cover it all. Let her not have to worry about this bill that she has to pay back amongst, I'm sure, many." And this person was watching this whole exchange, and this lady might not even ever know who this man is who helped her and what he did for her. I mean, she'll know that her bill has been diminished to zero, but she won't know all the details of it. And this man, just like that, to a woman he doesn't even know, but he saw another Jew in need, and just like that, he said, I'm gonna step in here and help her." And Charlie Harari was saying, we might not have the best things going on in our world right now, and we might not even be the best of ourselves right now. The Jewish people as a whole might not be in the best shape in some ways, but he said, we will be redeemed, and we will have a Mashiach, and we will come out of this exile, and we will come out of this COVID era. And how does he know that? Because when there is chesed going on in our community that is thriving like this, you can be assured that God is seeing that, and that is going to stand as a merit for us. And when you go to certain communities, you go to certain Jewish communities, they have a gemach, they have a special service for every type of thing that you can imagine. It's amazing. You go to a very, I remember reading somewhere that Bnei Brak in Israel has one of the largest gemach communities in the world. What does that mean? They have a gemach for everything. They have a gemach is a place you go if you need something, and you either get what you need for free or for very low cost. They have a gemach for pacifiers. They have a gemach if you have a bottle that you're running low on bottles and you're not sure how you're going to get a bottle and you can't afford it, and this. They have a formula, baby formula gemach. They have a gemach for every single thing that you can think of. I remember when I was in Israel, and I had a very bad case of strep, and the pharmacies were closed because it was Purim, and I was in severe pain, and it was like everything was closed early, and someone said to me, "It's okay, if you have a prescription, there's a gemach that can give you the medicine until the pharmacies open again tomorrow." And I literally walked into somebody's house, and they gave me the medication that I needed just because I couldn't get it yet, and my throat was in tremendous pain. When we have a nation like this, who does such tremendous chesed, we can be assured that we will see a Mashiach, and things will get better for us. I just want to give one last parable that the Chafetz Chaim gives. He said, let's say there used to be a very common setup that parents would make back, hundreds of years ago, where they would send their child. Let's say they had a son, and they wanted him to learn a trade. So they would send their son to an apprentice, and they would make up a price with the apprentice. If you teach our son for 5 years this craft that we will pay you 25 rubles or X amount of money per year, and you give him board, and you give him food, and you teach him your trade, and he'll learn from you, and that will be the exchange, and we'll pay you for that. And then after 5 years, we'll stop paying you, you'll start paying him, let's say half a ruble a week, and he will then work for you now that he's become a master of the trade. So this scenario happens, and the 5 years pass, and now the boy is working for his, master who taught him the craft. And the shop is doing well, and there's an overflow of work. So he hires some outside traders to help him with his work so that he can service all his customers, because business is booming. So he finds different experts that live around, the nearby villages, and he tells them he'll pay them 4 rubles a week for their work. And the boy looks at him and he says, "How could you pay them 4 rubles a week? You're paying me half a ruble, and I'm just as good as them. Why are you not paying me as much as them?" And the master looks back at the boy and he says, "You're so ungrateful. They're getting 4 rubles because they're using their own materials, they're using their own equipment. They don't live by me, they don't get food from me." He said, "Now you're not paying me anymore. I'm paying you now, but you're getting food, you're getting a place to sleep, you're using all my material, you're using all my tools, all my everything. So you're getting so much. Why should I give you more?" Now God could be like this master and teacher and say, we could look back at God and say, "We do so much, how could you not do more for us?" And God could look back and say to us, "How could I not do more for you? Yes, you do so much, but you do it with the hands that I gave you, the health that I gave you, the feet that I gave you, the food that I give you, the sustenance that I give you, the life that I breathed into you. And how could you expect more? Like, you're lucky you even get the half of ruble that I give you." But God is not like that man. God doesn't turn back to us and say, "Just be grateful because you get so much by living in my world that I don't owe you anything more," although that is true. Instead, God says, "You do chesed, you do good, and I'm going to repay you more than you can ever imagine. I will repay you in this world, and I will repay you in the next world." So next time you do something good for someone, and it's a little hard for you, and you stretch yourself, remember, you are doing such greatness. You're doing greatness for yourself. You're bringing merits to your family. And ultimately, you're bringing merits to the entire Klal Yisrael, the entire Jewish nation. Because as our schusim, as our merits of our forefathers decrease, we are putting more and more and more into that account to help bring those merits back up again. And in those merits, in the merit of all those cheseds and mitzvahs and chasadim and everything, we should be zocha. We should be merit to bring Mashiach and to see wonderful things for Klal Yisrael and for the world. Have a great week.